in this intro. Football is our religion. The One Course Stadium is our church. Nigel Clough, the God we choose to believe in. And technology just hates me. I am your priest. This is your Sunday sermon. And singing the theme tune, Mr. Nathan Edge and Mr. Clive Parkin. Take it away, fellas.
Da 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 da.
I mean,
I
don't know what's worse.
I think that's definitely better than what it was before. But there you go. Hopefully, you guys out there can hear us. Unfortunately, I've not got the music to play through because that seems to be what's causing the issue. Let's get my friends Nathan and Clive on the screen as well. It's to get rid of me. If you can hear us all right on the live stream, say hello. Come and say hello. It's a very weird feeling not being able to hear the microphone back through my headphones. I can only hear Nathan and Clive through it. We are sorting it. As you guys who have been with us for a few weeks know, we've been having a few issues with our streaming software this series for whatever reason, but we thought a week ago we'd found a solution, and then it appears that Nathan's come back with his COVID and infected my mixing desk. Nathan, whilst I do the sharing thing and test out how this sounds, there might be a little bit of feedback, so I want to see how it sounds through my headphones. I've not got other headphones to plug in. How are you feeling, by the way? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm slowly getting there. So I might occasionally fade my mic down because I might be starting to go and have a coughing fit. So I apologise if I have to go and do that. But yeah, I've had a rough few days, but I'm getting there now. So I've got a few days left of isolation. But today feels like I'm on a holiday. I've moved into a new room that I've not been in for 6 days. So I've only had the spare room and the bathroom, so I'm trying to stay away from Oliver and Emma at the moment. So yeah, I feel this. Oh, it feels like I'm almost free.
Almost free, but obviously, not quite yet. But one thing which would have, no doubt cheered you up, Nathan, yesterday was the result. Albeit, obviously, you're having to listen through iFollow, which I gather was about as crap as this sound-wise for a little bit.
There's something about technology, I think, at the moment. I'll have a chat with Clive before we came on. I think cynical Clive might be getting to something here. He reckons that now we're all going back to normal. The technology firms are making it all worse again because we're all relying on it and making us pay for it. But no, iFollow took a while to get going, and I was worried about that. And some points I listened to the away one, who I'm sure were the Welsh Chuckle Brothers. It was, Jamie Maguire, love him, but not as a co-commentator. But all in all, put all that to one side. The 3 points made it all feel a lot better and all worth it in the end.
Absolutely. And Clive, you were there and sat a couple of rows in front of me as normal. It was a decent performance from Mansfield, improved from last week in terms of our counter-attacking play. That's got to be a pleasing factor, hasn't it? As always at home as well. Now that the sound's working and you can see us and you can hear us, get involved in the comments and please save my Sunday. It was good to see us perform and be better on the counter yesterday, Clive.
There was a lot of good things happened yesterday. The result obviously is the most important thing, but we played really well in phases. We made a couple of silly mistakes, one of which resulted in their goal. But to put that aside, there was progress from the previous game, and I think Clough has said exactly the same thing, that we've got maximum points without actually reaching anywhere near the best levels of play that we've got in the locker. So that's good news in that respect. But I enjoy going to the football, and sometimes it's a strange enjoyment because you come away feeling rotten, but you've enjoyed the process. Yesterday, I enjoyed both the process and the result.
What was it like from your perspective yesterday, Nate, having to listen to it at home and not being able to be at the ground? Were you frustrated because of the amount of chances it sounded like we were creating?
Yeah, I'd say that was certainly the case. I mean, obviously it's good we're creating chances. Obviously, I'm still a bit worried about our defense. I think every game so far, we were probably more solid against Bristol Rovers. Not saying we gave a lot away against Newport, but obviously their goal was through a mistake. That kick straight down the field. very route one, very easy for them to go and get a goal like that. So that's disappointing, and that needs sorting out. Because we are going to come up against, I think Newport will be up there, but we are going to come up against other teams that are going to punish us more, a bit like Preston did in the cup. So there's a lot of positives, but there are clearly some things there that you say we've got to work on. But that you kind of expect that at this point in the season as well. Every team will be having the same realizations as the season gets going.
Jamie in the comments, Clive, says that we still need another centre-half. Very poor goal to give away. And it was as well. Nigel Clough wasn't entirely best pleased with the manner in which we conceded that goal. And it's sort of been a little bit of a hangover from the Tuesday Preston game as well. I think we've got to work very, very quickly on making sure that those sorts of errors are eradicated.
Yeah, it was a daft goal, wasn't it? I mean, it was just a punt from their keeper that bounced over everybody. The backbone of our side has got to be from the back, Bishop, Perch, Quinn, that line through the middle. And Perch, who's Mr. Reliable, as far as I can see, didn't do his job. And obviously, Fez was found wanting when the ball bounced over his head. And at the same time, I don't think Bishop was communicating as well as he could or should have been doing with his back line. So it happened. These things will happen. But, to go back on what you've just said, these are a good side. Newport are going to be up there. They've got a team that's been slowly built over a couple of seasons now. They've got some really good players. They play with a full width of the pitch. They got in Timmy Abraham, a really good player, in my opinion. He's the brother of Tammy from Chelsea, who's Roma bound by all accounts. And they had talented players. And I think on another day, they might have wiped the floor with another team. But so we should take the credit for actually controlling them and snatching a win.
Mark in the comments says, great result yesterday up the Stags. Callum says, isn't technology good when it works? Yeah, it's working for you guys. I mean, I'm still frustrated with it because I like to play and not being able to play the music, and I won't be able to play Nigel Clough and Ollie Clark's post-match reaction, which is a bit frustrating, but we're getting there. But he also says, I think I need to remind myself that at points yesterday that we are only still 2 games into the season. Plenty of things to work on, but have trust that Clough will fix the problems. It is that area in central defence, Nath, where things need to be looked at. We've still got the number 5 shirt available. We mentioned it weeks and weeks ago about missing out on Tom Naylor, but as the closure of the transfer window creeps ever closer, my eye is always on social media at the minute of looking towards signing imminent, because for me, if we fail to make a centre-half signing this transfer window, albeit an experienced one or a youngster as that bit of added competition and cover, I don't think we'll be able to sustain where we are and the start we've had, albeit 2 games in, because we are so susceptible to mistakes. And it will only take a good team to exploit us and find a way through us where it'll all come undone.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. We're kind of getting away with it at the moment, but the more we make those mistakes, obviously, you're obviously much harder to scout pre-season when you're coming up to the season starting. But now they're going to be watching previous matches and they're going to look at your weaknesses, and teams are going to try and play on that. So we've got that to come a little bit more. We've also got to take into consideration that we're basically a squad of pretty much fully fit, especially in the defence area. So we've also got suspensions and injuries to consider. So it can only get really weakened if we don't bring anybody in. So I think it does have to be a big priority over the next couple of weeks to try and get somebody through the door. Like I say, the problem is the longer you leave it, the more desperate it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the key issue, isn't it? It's about them coming in and being able to gel as well. I mean, for me, I think it has to potentially be this week. I think we've got to look at getting somebody in whilst we've potentially got a couple of away games, get them to bond with the squad on those journeys, and then of course we've got the end of the month where we've got the game with Harrogate in the Papa John's Trophy, which is a good opportunity for them to get some minutes and to without it really mattering in terms of the the league standing and things like that. We've certainly got to look at that. Performance-wise, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts, as always. Paul's been in touch and says, I've been to the open day at the RH Academy today. Got to say, Nigel Clough is a lovely, down-to-earth gentleman. He made a lot of time for the fans and met his dog, Bobby. Also, on yesterday's attendance, I was very shocked at how many Newport brought to the one call, but great result and great save by Bishop in the second half, which kept Mansfield in the game. Yeah, that's something which would perhaps be overlooked a little bit, Clive, isn't it? You know, because we put in such a good performance counter-attacking wise, the goalkeepers very rarely get the praise they deserve. But Nathan Bishop yesterday, second half especially, when they were starting to pile on the pressure, made an absolutely tremendous save.
He did, and that's what we want him to do, because every now and again he's going to have to. We'll chalk that one up against the gaff for the previous game, but the lad certainly got confidence to catch a ball, which is something we weren't getting from the previous custodians, to use someone else's word. I think I have no lack of confidence in the goalkeeping department now, providing we can hang on to him throughout the season, and he doesn't get injured. And as you've said, and we've all said several times, and Clough himself has said, we just need someone else in that back line to give us the strength that we're missing and the cover that we're going to need during the season, because at the moment Perch is playing in the position and doing a good job, but he can't necessarily be there all season long. Jamie Hewitt's out injured at the moment, but when he comes back in, that gives us another option, although he tends to be he doesn't tend to be a central defender in my book. But yeah, I don't know. I think the keeper did what he's paid to do, and I was pleased to see him make a save. It's good for a keeper to make a save. You know, get one of those under your belt, you feel so much better as a player.
Yeah, very refreshing as well to have that belief and that thing behind you without being too disrespectful to previous keepers, Nath. You know, that's the key to success, isn't it? Sometimes everything starts from the back. I mean, we go back to the era of Dave and being galvanised, and we always remember how much of a positive thing it was when we had Bobby Eleshnik between the sticks as well, and having that confidence in him. And I think it's that trust, isn't it, which needs to be built up between goalkeeper and defenders. Yes, we had the error against Preston in midweek, but as long as they know that they can rely on him when they do make those errors, then that can only bode well for going forward and being a really difficult side to break down.
Yeah, I mean, the more he comes out and makes these, makes the catches from crosses and corners and collects them and takes that pressure off, and the more he makes those important saves, and like I say, the more he digs us out of those sticky situations when we have made a mistake, then more they are going to sort of trust him. And I think as a defensive unit, we'll have a bit more togetherness about us, which is only going to help. So yeah, I do think it'll improve over time. I think Bishop is going to be a good enough keeper to help that. I just think we need a bit of better quality and ability to add into the mix as well.
Talking of quality and ability in the mix, let's look at what Jamie's had to say. He says, what about sending a couple of players out on loan, i.e. Knowles, and hopefully release some funds for a decent centre-half? I think that's a critical one, isn't it, Clive, at this point? We've got non-league starting up in a couple of weeks' time. Other leagues are starting back up now as well. I would personally look at what the strike force we have and would probably look to release one or two of those players to get them some experience on the condition that they are, regular starters for those teams. Because yes, it will release funds, but it will also develop those players. Because when you've got, the likes of Danny Johnson, Rhys Oates, Ollie Hawkins, George Lapsley, Jordan Bowery, Tyrese Sinclair, all ahead of players like Knowles and Kane, it's no use to their development, is it, by sitting them on the bench and sitting them in the under 23s? Just get them out, get them that experience, and free up some money and bring some revenue in as well.
Yeah, I think it's good for the players. I'm not so sure we need the money. I think the money's there for this player when we find him. But you're right. I mean, any income from loans is going to be very valuable as we go through the season. Oh, and by the way, Paul's just commented that it's Elliot Hewitt and not Jamie. But what he's failing to take into account is my incredible age. And I struggle to remember surnames as well as first names. So you're going to have to forgive me, fellas.
I didn't know if you meant James Clark, Elliot Hewitt, Jamie Clark.
I think you were thinking like a bit of a hybrid of
Jamie Maguire.
Yeah, because I think Nathan's probably to blame there. You did say sort of you were talking about Jamie Maguire in the commentary.
I could have been thinking of Jamie Redknapp. You never know, do you? I mean, the point is, I'm at one of those embarrassing ages in life where you don't remember what you've had for breakfast. So please forgive me if I get things wrong. But isn't it refreshing to have an old git on this panel? Because a lot of the people I stand or sit with at the football game are my age. So anyway, moving back to the question, I think, get these players out on loan. I think, and certainly we have, in those young players, potential that's not been realised. And it may never get realised unless they go out and make a name for themselves somewhere else. The Notts journey didn't work last year for him, did it? Really? So it's a matter of finding the right place.
I think that's why it has to be a stipulation of, they've got to play senior first team football. I think that's definitely a discussion, though, for the midweek pod. Let's delve back into why we're here. Of course, the Sunday sermon, going over all things Mansfield Town and all things previous game. Newport County, of course, beaten by 2-1 at the hands of the Stags at the one call yesterday. And one person who was imperative in that victory for me, Nath, was that of George Maris. I don't know if that's something you might have picked up from the commentary, but for me, it was absolutely excellent yesterday. I reckoned him to a coin pusher earlier.
Yeah, I'd say he was contender for man of the match, to be fair. Obviously got the goal, which had its slice of fortune with it. But I think aside from that, his overall play, it seemed to be a lot of the turnover of play from when Newport did have the ball in sort of an hour off and they were sort of pressing on. It seemed to be when it was turned over back to us, he was the one that was either winning the ball back or playing the sort of key pass forward to relieve that pressure. So I did think he had a very, very good game.
I was very surprised, Clive, that he wasn't given man of the match. I thought Ollie Clark had a decent performance, but for me, Maris was pretty much the linchpin for everything we were doing.
Definitely. Jamie Maris was my man of the match.
Do you want to tell him, Nate? Or I think that was a deliberate gag. I think that was a deliberate gag.
Definitely. I'd like to say it was a deliberate gag.
You'll never know.
I think we know. I think we do know. Oh dear. Yes, I think he had a very good performance yesterday. I think it was highlighted in his goal as well. He was ratting around that midfield, did really well to win the ball back, open up some space for him. And I think also, Clive, the fact that Nigel Clough has given room and license to get shots away says a lot about how he wants to play. He doesn't want to try and be intricate and work it into the box and try and tap it over the line and that things. If space opens up, have a go, have an effort.
Absolutely. And you shoot, and then under the strangest circumstances, you score. I mean, no one expected that first goal of ours to go in, but it did, and we'll take it. And the second goal, of course, was a net breaker. So, shoot, you've got a chance. Don't shoot, you have no chance. But going back to Maris, I mean, his work rate was incredible. And I've been fairly critical of him in previous occasions for being a little bit anonymous. But yesterday he was on the ball. He was there.
I think one of Maris's issues, Nath, has been the fact that when he first came to us, he was definitely more of a player that would play the top of a diamond, the centre attacking midfield role, maybe even pushing out wide or even going up front as an extra striker. Since Nigel Clough has come in particular, he's tinkered with a lot of things, but one thing which has been very much tinkered with is George Maris's position, and now plays the bottom of that diamond in more of a defensive role. And actually, if the technology was working and if all of this was working, I was able to play the clips. One thing Nigel Clough did say in his post-match interview is that Maris is our most creative player.
Yeah. And usually you think your most creative player would be higher up the pitch, but I think I remember when we signed him from Cambridge, and a lot of the Cambridge fans were saying he'd been playing this sort of deeper role for them, but they preferred him higher up the pitch. And I remember us saying, hopefully, he's going to be put in his best position, or what we thought was his best position, sort of at the top of that diamond, more attacking wise. But actually, I think the more he's played in this sort of deeper role, I actually think the better he's been, and because his work rate's important. His work rate is really important in that position. You have to have somebody that's a workhorse to put in the yards, but he also gets that bit of space, and then he gets us going. And like I said earlier, it's that turn over a possession. He was the man a lot of the time that was getting the ball, and he was making the right passes to get us going. So, it seems to be really settling into that position.
Yeah, and I think one thing about that as well, I think, like you say, he's definitely settling into that position. He really gives us that output and that option to play through the midfield and to try and do that, and really brings out the best in other players as well when he's absolutely on his game. I think another player that was perhaps underrated yesterday, Clive, was that of Ollie Hawkins. You look at his frame, don't you? And 6'7", 6'8", and everybody thinks that he'll be. Everyone thinks that he will be one of those who is just a big lump, big target man. But he's really articulate. Actually, he's really good with ball to feet.
Yeah, he's a player that you don't actually appreciate until you've looked at him properly for a while. I was guilty of thinking his work rate wasn't as good as it could have been, but on reflection, he's there. He's the target man, of course, because of his height, but he very rarely lost a ball when it got to him. And obviously the flick-ons were the obvious reason for pitching a ball in the air to him. And some of those are going to pay off. It's a question of whether the other strikers are in tune to pick them up. But I think that the lad's totally committed to what we're trying to achieve. And providing his work rate remains the same as it seems to be, he'll profit from that, and the team will.
One thing that I found very interesting about Nigel Clough's comments is that he said, we don't want to always fall into that trap of playing it up high to Ollie Hawkins. We want to try and find other ways to play.
It's horses for courses, isn't it? At the end of the day, it depends on who you've got in your team and who they got in their team, and that's the mark of a decent manager, knowing what strategy to employ. At times we play incredibly well with the width, but on other occasions we waste that effort. We get good positions and then the final ball is not up to standard, and you feel sorry for the striker who's waiting for that final ball. And to have that, if we can improve on that, and then we've got some more direct approach football, which will pay off with a tall striker. I think that's the solution, because then you can stretch any good defence all over the park, and that's something we have to do. We're going to come across teams that have got two central defenders that can stand there all day heading balls away. So we've got to find ways around the back of them or to compete with them in the air. So that's the reason for this lad in the team.
I think that's really changed our dynamic as well, Nath, as well, the way our strike force has changed and what Nigel Clough has done in the summer transfer window. We'll come to more comments in a second, keep them coming in. But you look at the way the front three, which we finished last season with, realistically, Jordan Bowery, your friend Jamie Reid, who's now at Stevenage, and George Lapsley. And you look at the front three, which we've played in the first two league games of Hawkins, Johnson and Oates. I think one thing which I've certainly noticed and certainly picked up on as pre-season has gone on into the season is that this front three is very different to the front three, because they're not trying to play on the front foot. They're not trying to be constantly in the final third. They're happy to come sit in midfield, to come and hold the ball up, to come and try and bring other people and other players into play. And I think that then opens up our midfield and gives the likes of Quinn, Clark, Maris the opportunity to really thrive and push forward like that. Again, I keep using that thing of likening it to a coin pusher. It's a consistent thing of going back, pushing forward, going back, pushing forward, and those front three, Nath, coming forward and dropping and playing deeper really gives us a different dynamic in our play.
Yeah, well, in the interview, obviously, unfortunately, we can't hear it. But if people go onto iFollow and listen, or onto the club networks, Nigel Clough did say post match about we did it a couple of times, but he wants to see it more. But he's midfielders running beyond the forward players, bringing them into it. We had Maris go through in the first half. Probably, I think it's first half. Probably should have scored, and that was an example of it. And obviously we've got the goal from Clark as well. So we've done it on a few occasions, but clearly Nigel Clough wants to see more of that, and he believes that we've got the forward players to be able to do that as well. and he also, a couple of weeks ago, said he wants to see more goals from midfield as well. So that, it seems to me he has made it that mission for the midfielders to get more involved, get in the danger zone, and get some more goals, and support the forwards with with both assists and goals.
Jamie says that Hawkins is a better player than Bowery. Paul says Ritsos is playing really, really well. And I completely agree with that, Clive. George Lapsley is an absolutely talented midfielder and does offer us something really key in the game and was certainly one of our better players last season. But Rhys Oates has come in. He knows that he's going to be battling for that position with Lapsley. And so far, he's hit the ground running. He's got a nice turn of pace to him, can get into a wide position, get balls in the box. And it looks a really, really dangerous player.
Yeah, I think his position is slightly further forward than Lapsley's natural position. I mean, Lapsley tends to take the ball with him, whereas Oates tends to be more, if you like, able to deal with the ball that's given to him. I think I'm going back to the point that Clough made about getting goals from midfield. There are goals in Clark, Quinn, Maris, and Lapsley. We should expect them to score this year. And that takes the pressure off the forward line because it doesn't really matter who scores in this league as long as we do. But I think it's going to be an interesting challenge between Lapsley and Oates for minutes on the pitch.
Yeah, getting the ball in the back of the net is certainly the key thing. More comments coming in. Paul says the referee yesterday was an absolute joke, not fit to wear his shirt.
Wasn't
it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. Newport played really well, says Gary, and 2 or 3 times went close to scoring. We look better with the ball than without. We were cut open a couple of times with them missing some good goal-scoring opportunities. Cracking result, but nervy last 10 minutes. Nigel had his head in his hands on several occasions. And Ryan says, I think Nigel should give Sinclair a good chance and play him a lot more. He's a star to be. He will get his opportunity. It's very early in the season. And I think it'll be interesting to see, Nath, the team lineup come Tuesday night. Of course, the trip to Colchester, the first away game of the season. They've had a bit of an indifferent start to the campaign so far with a draw and a defeat, sitting in 17th at the minute. But, they'll be very eager to try and push on and cause us problems in ways which Newport and Bristol Rovers haven't yet or didn't manage to do.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the more we know this from last season, the more you go without winning, the more important each game comes to get that first win, because you just want to get that off your shoulder. So and it'll be no different for Colchester on Tuesday night. It'll be interesting to see what we do team wise. But I don't know if you remember last year we've had this conversation many a times. And how many times did we sit here on that pre-match podcast, the warm-up podcast, saying Nigel Clough has announced an unchanged 11 for tonight's fixture. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if we did go with the same team. But at the end of the day, it is early on, and you look at the bench at least now, and you say it's a much stronger bench than last season. So if it is unchanged, I'm not too concerned at this point. I think we're in a good position, both health of the squad and sort of the ability on the bench as well to come on and change it if needed.
Tim says Oates has done really well. Lapsley is also good up front because he is direct. I think the passing between all the midfield is great, but sometimes we need to be a little bit more direct, and we waste some midfield free kicks, taking a quick short one and it goes nowhere. Jamie says Colchester have signed 8 players from Ipswich, and Joseph says hopefully a good game on Tuesday. Be great to carry on a start with a few points in the bag. What are you looking for team-wise on Tuesday night, Clive? I mean, it would be great to see us, continue to name a sustained, stable lineup. But I think because the games are going to be coming thick and fast, you've got to add in the travel to that as well. I think we've got the players in there that are going to be, absolutely chomping at the bit to get game time. I thought on Tuesday against Preston that Ryan Stirk was excellent in the midfield. I thought, I'd like to see a little bit more of him. As Joseph mentioned, not Joseph, sorry. has who was it that mentioned Sinclair? I apologise. Ryan mentioned, sorry.
Ryan.
That's Sinclair is there and be itching to sort of pick up from where he left off last season. Lapsley will be eager for a game as well, and Elliot Hewitt will be keen to try and come back into the lineup as well.
I just want us to win. So I'm sure everybody does, but I just want us to capitalise on the excellent 2-game start and pick up an away win. And if that means playing the same team, providing they all come through post-match training and they're not carrying too much by way of knocks, I'd go for the team that Clough decides is the right one, which is likely to be the same team again. I take your point, but I think in August we just have to throw everything we've got at it, because you can buy a bit of relaxation once you've got a few points under your belt. You can start to change things a little bit then. But at the moment, I think the 3 more points is more important than giving some of the players who are frustrated at not getting pitch time.
Jamie says, I'd like to see Lapsley starting and Oates on the bench. Perch will be on the bench too, with Elliott starting. I agree. I think what Clive said in there, Nathan, is very, very true. Sometimes we forget that importance of having a good start and giving ourselves room to breathe. Because if you look back to last season, I know it's one which we're trying to get rid of and trying to not remember, but the lessons are there to be learned. You have a bad start and all of a sudden, you're struggling, and that mindset takes a lot of work to get out of. We were very, very fortunate that we took our time in the recruitment of a new manager and got rid of one where it wasn't working and things like that. And then with the same players, drastically improved. But, having that comfort after the first, 4 or 5 games of the season in the opening month of potentially going unbeaten and picking up, 3 or 4 wins, 1 or 2 draws, gives us that confidence in that camp to be able to have players being more hungry, and have more desire to come in and to knock on the gaffer's door and say, I want to be playing football.
Yeah, obviously we've getting 2 back-to-back league wins is the best start we've had since 1994. So that's already a nice sort of little stat for us to be happy about. But it's only 2 games. It's nothing sort of.
But just remember that 2 very difficult games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is that to consider. Then you can say they're both at home. So how often does that happen? So there's swings and roundabouts, but you can only go and beat who's out where beat who's put in front of you and wherever you are. So we should be happy that we've come out with 6 points from 6. It's a great start to the season. 4 different goal scorers as well. So that's 4 players with their head held high, going into their games. So again, another big bonus there. And if we can make that 3 out of 3, what a start that would be. The only issue you get if we can go sort of for 5 games or so unbeaten, you then get raised expectation levels, don't you? So they'll have that to deal with. But I think more so than anything, it'll be the confidence it gives them, which I think, I don't think it's just confidence. I think they do seem to be playing with confidence, but I think it's probably self-belief just to know that they, maybe we are good enough to be at the sort of top end of the table and compete there.
Ryan says, I think Bradford next Saturday will be one of the hardest challenges this season. Absolutely. Unfortunately, though, that's almost all we've got time for because we had so many tech problems before. We were due to start at 6 and ended up starting at about 7. So we are going to knock it on its head very, very shortly indeed, because Nathan's got to go and swab down everything he's touched and sleep. Clive's got to get back to his life, and so have I. I've got work in the morning as well. So get your comments in now for who you want to get that coveted tweet from Nathan Edge for Man of the Match, and we'll run through our suggestions in just a second as well. First, though, without any of the music, which is very, very disappointing indeed, let's have a quick run through of yesterday's Sky Bet League 2 results, and of course the table after the first 2 games of that campaign. So let's have a little look at where we are with that. Barrow were 3-2 winners over Hartlepool United after it being 1-1 at half-time. Bradford, who we play on Saturday, of course, the 3rd consecutive Saturday home game at the One Call Stadium, were 2-1 winners over Oldham Athletic. Bristol Rovers were beaten 2-0 at home by Stevenage. Colchester, also who we play on Tuesday, were beaten 1-0 at home to Northampton, so they'll be itching to set that right on Tuesday night. Leyton Orient were beaten 3-0, were winners 3-0, over at home to Exeter City. Port Vale and Tranmere a goalless draw, as was Rochdale and Scunthorpe and Salford and Sutton. Swindon beaten 2-1 at home to Carlisle, and Walsall beaten 3-1 at home to Forest Green Rovers, who sit at the top of the Sky Bet League 2 table, only on goal difference at the moment. They are at the top. Stevenage in second, after winning their opening 2 games. And then, of course, the Stags sitting in third at the moment. At the bottom, it's Bristol Rovers and Walsall, who hover over the relegation places at the moment. Although after 2 games, you can't really take any of that into consideration at all. Keep your suggestions coming in for man of the match. We'll read those out in just a second. Nathan, I'm going to come to you first for your suggestions. Obviously unable to be at the game, but relied heavily on iFollow. By listening, who did you think and was your man of the match yesterday?
I'm going to go for 3 players as contenders. I'm going to say Nathan Bishop. Obviously made a very good save in that second half. So, sometimes we forget keepers, they don't get all the plaudits, and that's basically the equivalent of scoring a goal. So I thought, again, he had a good game. I personally don't think he was to blame for the goal we conceded. So
no, not at all.
No, so for me, he's certainly a contender. And the other 2 are the 2 goal scorers in Ollie Clark and George Maris, for obviously their part they played. But as sort of mentioned earlier, Ollie Clark took his goal very well, and I thought he had a much better game against on Saturday than he did against Bristol Rovers. I thought maybe the occasion got to him a little bit with that one, but he did put in a much better performance this time round. But for me, George Maris just edged it with his not just for his goal, but his overall play, like we said earlier. So for me, my vote is going to Mr. George Maris.
So one vote for George Maris. Let's see where Clive's going to go with his. Talk us through your nominations first, Clive, and then give us your overall man of the match.
Well, it was between the 3 Jamies: Jamie Maris, Jamie Oates, or Jamie Clark. I have to say that I've settled on Maris.
So Jamie Maris or George Maris, which one you're going to give the vote to? Because it does make a difference. It does make a difference.
Oh, it better be George then.
It better be George. So George Maris gets a second vote from Clive. For me, again, I think there are 3 contenders. Honourable mention to Nathan Bishop. Did well with the save and commanded his box very well again. Looks like we've got a good, confident goalkeeper in him. But my 3 contenders, I thought Stephen McLaughlin was decent at left back, gave us an edge going forward down that left hand side and putting some good challenges as well. George Maris, again, I thought was absolutely fantastic. His goal reflected the way he played yesterday, winning that tackle and creating that space. The other contender for me, I don't think either of you two mentioned him actually, was Ollie Hawkins, who I thought dropped really deep to create, showed he was articulate with ball at feet and gave us that extra bit of an option. But I am going to go with you two and say that my man of the match, to make it 3 votes, is George Maris. Let's have a little look in the comments as well. Ryan says George Maris for my man of the match yesterday. Gary Maris, Jamie Maris, Tim says Maris, and Kathy. Tim says Macca, and Kathy says George Maris. So there we go. I think Nathan Edge, you know what you've got to do.
Yes, it's going to be. George Maris, I think, is with a couple of special mentions there, which we know all the players, that's what they're waiting for on their Sunday evening with a tweet from me.
Absolutely. And that's all you want. That is all you want. Gentlemen, my thanks to you for joining me and sticking with us during this technological hell, and to you guys at home as well. Unfortunately, there's no outro music to play us out, which is very, very frustrating indeed. But I'll leave you with these words. Oh no, I forgot to do one feature of the show. How silly of me. This is show 2, and I've already forgot one feature. What is this show? What is this show called, Nathan Edge?
Oh, the Sunday sermon.
And what do we get in sermons?
Bored.
Yeah, other than bored. Yeah, thanks for that, Clive.
I don't know. I've never been. You did this last week, and
hello, is that Cam? Yeah, can you come back?
Please, Cam, please.
It's not a confession, is it? What was it? Come on.
A lesson. No, it sounds like confession. A lesson.
Okay.
We always have lessons at the end. So I'm going to ask you both, what one lesson do Mansfield Town and do we as a collective take away from yesterday's game? I'll go to Clive first. What's your lesson?
My lesson from yesterday is it doesn't matter how you win as long as you do.
It's a good lesson. Nathan Edge?
Don't catch COVID because it's crap listening to it. No, my lesson is let's get a new centre half to replace Faz. Sorry, to just get a new centre half.
He's got COVID. He's ill.
I'll forgive him that one because he's poorly.
Forgive me that one because he's poorly. Lesson. My personal lesson is Tech's a bitch. And the general lesson for the Stags is when the opposition have a goal kick, win your bloody headers. It's as simple as that. On to Tuesday night in Colchester. My thanks for you guys for joining us, and my thanks to everybody at home for sticking with us. We've had a bit of a technological nightmare today with the stream. We've had a nightmare with it in this series so far, but we are working so damn hard on getting it right. And hopefully, by the time Thursday comes around, we will. Make sure you join us then for episode 6 of the Mansfield Matters podcast series 5, where we'll be reflecting on the Colchester game, looking ahead to the Bradford game, and some much, much more in between as well. And then, of course, you can join us next Sunday, definitely at 6 o'clock, because the tech will bloody work for the next Sunday sermon. From me, Craig Priest, from Nathan Edge, from Clive Parkin, thank you for watching and sticking with us. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because even if technology doesn't work, Mansfield always matters. See you next